Hello, here we are again. This is video number 3 in our leadership series, and we are here again with the amazing, the wonderful Megan Sillito.
I just want to bring you in my pocket and have you introduce me like at Java Joe's and stuff.
I would love to do that. That would actually be fun. We should do that one day.
I know.
Amazing. Wonderful, the incredible Megan Sillito.
At the dry
what we need to do is we need to pre-plant a bunch of people in the coffee shop so that they all start clapping.
Ooh, that would be such a practice in receiving judgment. Oh my gosh, that'd be awesome.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about awareness in leadership. What does that mean? Leadership.
Well, you've asked $1 million question, because I'm going to say something and know that anytime I make a statement, it's really to get an energy or a message across, because my intent is to always be in question and always be looking to discover what the next level of a thing is, and not to declare something as the way it is. When I say a statement, it's just to get an energy across. So leadership is the most important capacity or tool, awareness is the most important thing a leader can learn about, period, amen. Okay, so I just want to get that across. Why? What is it? What does it mean? If a leader is willing to see beyond what is in front of them, i.e. the current problem, the current conflict, the current challenge, and the leader is willing to have awareness of what is beyond that no one else is seeing, that's when the leader becomes super potent. Now, what gets in the way of awareness? Judgment. And I would say also conclusion. So let me tell you what I mean by this. Blockbuster corporate had the judgment, had the conclusion that people would always buy videos. So they stuck on that conclusion rather than to go, hey, what's happening in the marketplace? What are we aware of? Where are the trends going? And the thing about it is that because of the information age and because everything's like zoom, 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 like whole entire industries are changing in light speed, in a nanosecond. Certain technologies come and like, boom, that industry's gone. Kodak is another example, right? The companies that are the most successful are the companies that are constantly looking beyond what's here and what everybody has decided is the way to see what the next wave is. That's why Google spends so much money training their creatives and creating environments where their creatives can actually go out of the box and see what's down the road that no one else is seeing. It's one of the most important things you can develop as a leader. If you are simply doing status quo as a leader in this day and age, you're dead. You can't lead your people anywhere. You are going to be driving the Titanic, and that's a great example, because the Titanic, the people who built it and the people who were steering it believed that it was unsinkable. So I don't know, your thing is freezing, right? So it's unsinkable. That was what kind of question? That wasn't any kind of question at all, right? Because of that decision, they were unable to see and actually didn't do the work to prepare for what could sink it. So anytime that we create that kind of a thing, a conclusion or a judgment, we set ourselves up to sink, for our teams to sink, for our businesses to sink. That awareness has got to be the number one thing that we learn how to develop as leaders.
I was thinking about this just today. Kind of, there's this world where there's a balance between positive thinking, because it's not really helpful to just be negative all the time and then creating negative things. But then there's this place that people go to where they're so extreme in their positive thinking that they don't even allow an awareness to anything bad happening, and then and it causes chaos, and they're like, I was thinking positive, why didn't this happen, why did this happen to me, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well,
so can you speak kind of to the balance in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the problem with positive thinking is it's very conclusionary, right? When you say only good things happen to me, you actually have to cut off awareness of potential things that might be bumpy or whatever, because it's like, you're like, oh, la, 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 I'm happy, I'm positive. And don't you want to slap these people that are doing that? I mean, when they're doing it from unawareness, like, there's days that I'm genuinely thrilled and happy, but I'm not trying to convince myself that only positive things happen and exist. To me, that's a recipe for disaster, because I'm concluding that the world has all kinds of energies. So my training is around conscious leadership, not just traditional leadership. Okay, traditional leadership is about control. It's very judgment-based. It's very conclusion-based. This is a new kind of leadership that's actually emerging in the world. And it's the kind of leadership that's got to be developed if we're going to actually create a different kind of a world to live in. But it's like, consciousness, my definition of consciousness is that it includes everything and judges nothing. So if I'm judging negativity and I'm cutting it out, then I'm not going to be aware that that can happen. So if I'm the driver of the Titanic, then an iceberg would be negative. So I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to prepare for it. I would not want to have that be in my awareness. So that's what happens is when you're on either side of it, right? If you go down the negative track, oh, life sucks, blah, blah, blah. Well, not really. That's just a conclusion. And yeah, shitty things happen sometimes, right? But if I don't have a judgment about it and I can be aware of what's happening, I can ask, hey, what can change this situation? Rather than living in a la-la world pretending that only good things happen, or a la-la world only bad things happen. Right? That's really cutting out half of the world.
So how can you, because the benefit to me of the very traditional leadership styles is they give you such an easy construct to follow, you know, do this, do this, do this, do this. When we're talking about some of these things and awareness, it's so based on being in tune with the situation. And
yes.
So how do you train yourself to be on the cutting edge of awareness?
Mm-hmm. That's an awesome question. Okay, so what I would say is you have to be willing to, how do I want to say this? You have to be willing to receive intensity. Okay, because one of the things why people do this la 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 only positive, because they don't want to feel intensity in part. They don't understand that if they are actually to really receive as much positive energy as they want, that would also be intense, right? And so I actually think a lot of why people don't choose to be leaders is they're afraid of the intensity of being a leader. And having people go, hey, what do we do here? And, you know, there's an intensity that I think that we have to be willing to experience and be part of. But that's actually, when you actually get okay with that, that becomes very like passionate and exciting and like, ooh, cool, now what? You know, I have this client, she's really awesome. She's like, her whole project with me right now is to find any potential place where she stops herself. And as soon as she's like, she gets despondent when she can't find it, because she's like, God damn it, like I've got to find that edge, you know. And as soon as she finds it, she gets so thrilled, because she's like, okay, how do I get to the other side of it? Like, she's teaching herself to renovate her own home right now, right? And so like she's figuring out power tools and all this, and she'll find this place where she can't do something, and then she gets super excited because she gets to figure out how she's going to go around that. And I think that it's really that. It's like, okay, like, you have to be willing to actually lean into that edge and to not know cognitively. We all know energetically. We all have that intuition. We've all had those experiences of, don't turn left. don't go into that store. Like, we've all had those messages. We've oftentimes denied them or ignored them or poo-pooed them or whatever. So it's kind of that combination, I think, of being willing to go, hey, like, I have a knowing, I have a sense of things, and I'm going to tune into that sense, and I'm going to let that lead me to, not just like what I can see here with this sort of physical side of things. So there's a lot of programs out there that help you develop your intuitive sense, but like even doing things like, just like looking at trees and just trying to feel into and sense the energy. I remember my first energy teacher would do this thing where you look at a branch and then you look like just 5-10 degrees to the left, right? And then you allow your focus to go, not to go from sharp to soft. And it's, as you can start to see, like the energy that comes off a tree, right? So that's an example of a practice where you could actually develop an intuition, develop a seeing sense. But it's like just asking this question. Here's a tool. Here's a tool for this. What do I know right now that I'm not letting myself know? Anytime you come against a problem, every time you come against a challenge, because what do we do when we come against a challenge, right? Oh, little me, big challenge. Oh, I'm too widow. I can't, this challenge is bigger than me, right? So there's a way that we're perceiving it that's not allowing our knowing. It's not allowing that awareness. So like just asking, it's like, okay, what am I aware of right now? What am I aware of? Now, you may not get a specific answer, right? You may not get, like when I was practicing with the tree, right, to see energy. I didn't always see it, but I could feel it, right? Or I could sense it with some other part of me, right? So when you say, what am I aware of here? Or what do I know here? What that does is it just takes you a little bit beyond where the problem is. And you actually go into a space that's beyond the concreteness of the problem. And then you actually start widening your awareness beyond that situation or beyond that problem. So questions are probably the best way that I know of to expand awareness, and to also be like really cognizant of when you've come to conclusion. Right? So like in the old days when I was doing a lot of like healing work with people, and they would say things like, my mom's a bitch. Well, there's not a lot of questions there. And from that perception, that point of view, it's probably going to be really hard for you to heal that. Right? So really getting underneath that, it's like, okay, like what's hurting right now? What happened? What, you know what I mean? Like, so you go into that question to gain, as a coach, I'm looking to gain awareness about actually what's stopping somebody. And if I just take their conclusions about where they're at and what their problem is and how they're a victim of this and that, then I actually join them. I can't lead them. I have to ask questions that bring awareness to them and to me so that we can find the way out. And so to me, that's the essential skill with awareness, is just to go, hey, what am I aware of here? What do I know here? Because we all have awareness that's way, way beyond our cognition. But we've learned to over rely on cognition. I mean, it's not like it's not like dumping cognition entirely, but it's like not having it be what you're dependent upon.
Do you have advice for people who maybe they're in tune with their awarenesses and want to lead that way, but maybe are on a team with somebody who leads in a very traditional manner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I would say is to really just ask questions. Like you could ask questions of that person that's leading in the traditional manner. Like, what do you feel like is the correct approach? Because that somebody who's leading in the traditional manner needs to be right. They need to be correct. So when you ask questions that kind of affirm that for them, like, what do you feel is the correct approach here? What you're saying is you're saying, hey, there's something that you have that's correct. They're going to feel heard by that question and not challenged by that question. It's tricky with those kind of leaders because if you ask them too many questions, their authority becomes challenged and that doesn't go so good. So and to say, will you tell me more about that? What do you know about this that I don't know? So if you can kind of come at it from that, you'll also create potential awareness for them as well, right? And you can't change somebody's top way of being, right? It's like the consciousness accepts everything and judges nothing, allows everything and judges nothing. So, all right, you get to allow the controller to be whatever they're choosing, but you come in being you, being willing to be the question, being willing to offer awareness and to ask questions that might open that awareness. Oh, and by the way, if you're fighting against them, you're resisting and reacting to them, you're actually locked into some conclusion that they have authority and you don't, which actually then it's up to you to ask questions from you. It's like, when did I give this person the key to my car? Right? And how might I bring that back? And what do I need to choose for me right now? What do I need to be aware of that could change this situation? Because everybody, when they have a troublesome person, they try to change that person. Well, you can't change anybody else. That's what real leaders know that. All I can do when I'm leading a team or a group of people, all I can do is inspire them and give them options, give them possibilities they didn't have before. They have to choose it. I can't choose it for them. I mean, I used to try. I really did. I used to drag people kicking and screaming into consciousness, and that wasn't very kind to either of us. It really wasn't in the end, and so it really is about what actually is going to serve here. And if as an aware leader, if you're choosing to lead as an aware leader, you are constantly challenging your points of view. You're constantly looking at when you're judging. You're constantly trying to get under your views of right and wrong, because all awareness is stopped when we go into some kind of right and wrong dynamic.
That's that just made me realize that I have a judgment about leaders that they know they wouldn't be second guessing themselves all the time or trying to reform their own selves, because they already know who they are.
Yeah.
That's a judgment I just realized I have.
Oh, that's awesome. Great awareness. Yeah, because it's like, the thing is that as a society, if we haven't really owned our power, our gifts, then we'll look outside ourselves for somebody that we think is perfect and has it all together and hang all our hopes on that person. We don't want that person to question themselves, because we think questioning ourselves, we've questioned ourselves in a way that's been very destructive and diminishing. So that's what's so attractive about the just do it my way. I've got the 5 keys, and if you just do those things, shit'll work out, right? It's like, that's why that's so attractive, because we want somebody out there to have all the answers. We want somebody that doesn't have any negativity or never has any problems. And then we want to hang our hat on that and have them tell us what to do, so that we don't have to be in the intensity of the ambiguity that awareness actually is. Sometimes it really is being in the unknown, but really at the same time, trusting the awareness that comes in the unknown and trusting ourselves to choose in that unknown place. Oh, like over to the right, over to the left, right? And to just really trust that. And it's not about, am I right about my awareness, right? Because that's what a lot of people do. It's like, well, that was your intuition and that didn't work out very good for you and blah, blah, blah. But that's also a conclusion. Awareness isn't about being right either. It's about knowing about a direction that we need to go in, that's actually eventually going to create further. And sometimes initially that awareness will take you to a breakdown. It will take you to a blow up of something, and you go, oh, that was stupid. I should never trust my awareness, right? But actually, that's what something needed to be deconstructed in order for you to build the thing you said that you wanted. So any amount of judgment, any amount of judgment along the way actually cuts off the creative process. Awareness isn't about being right. It's about going in a direction that you feel and know and sense is going to create greater, and trusting that you may not know how it looks, but trusting that path.
So what advice do you have for people who struggle to trust themselves?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I would say is, what's it going to take to trust me? That is really, you've got to make the choice to trust yourself. And that precedes any trust work you could possibly do. Like, one of my coaches, Steve Chandler, has this audio. It's called, it's called Trusting. It says, don't trust test. Okay. And what he talks about in there is, like, when you were little, did you trust you could climb a tree, or did you just climb the freaking tree? Did you go, I don't know. Do I trust myself to climb the tree? Do I trust myself to jump in the pool? No, you jumped your butt in the pool. You climbed the tree. So little kids, we knew this as little kids, test. Testing creates trust. So if I jump in the pool enough, and my parents notice I'm jumping in the pool, they're probably going to, like, start getting me lessons or whatever is required so that I can learn that thing, so that I can develop that trust in myself. Trust is something that is tested. It is not something that is just given. And so it's like this idea of, oh, I have to trust myself before I can be a leader. Oh, I have to trust myself before I can do this, is actually just an avoidance. It's just it's a whole other little conversation that you have so that you don't have to show up and choose. So choose, test, then correct, right? Adjust. Choose, adjust. Choose, adjust. Will you be perfect? No. Might you fall down? Yes. First time I jumped off one of those high dives that are like 30 feet up, the Olympic ones, belly flopped that sucker, right? And I never did that again. I lived and I never did that again, right? And so, and that's true with trees. There's certain trees that I learned that I could start to read. I can go up that tree, but coming down will be difficult. Why? Because I got my ass stuck up in a tree a couple of times, right? So it's like, that's part of what I think we're kind of, in this society, there's this kind of idea of perfectionism, and that the people who get success were never failed or never fell. But actually, it's the total opposite. You got to be willing to fail your ass off if you're a leader. And that's actually what's going to make you a good leader. And it's what's going to develop the trust. So get in the game. And it's like, choose it, right? It's like, okay, if I were trusting me, what would I choose right now? See how I was sneaky with that? Because most people go, can I trust myself? And they get caught in that, right? If you just say, okay, if I was trusting myself right now, what would I choose? And then choose it.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Mm-hmm. It's sneaky.
And trust in the question before you even have a chance to question it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. I trusted me right now. What would I choose? And then it will show up. You'll feel it. It's like, I would do that. Okay, cool. Let me do it. Let me see. Let me see what happens.
I like that a lot.
But these are all things that help us develop those capacities of knowing, those capacities of awareness. Because if you're never willing to try anything, you're never willing to choose anything, you cannot develop the trust and you will not develop the awareness. Like, it's really getting in the game and playing and going, whoop, that didn't work, or whatever, but really taking it really lightly and not significant and going, oh, that didn't work. What about this? Like, I did that with Facebook, right? It's like, I was like trying to figure it out. It was just this whole other, I felt totally alien to me, a year and a half ago. I was like, what's happening? And I would try things and it was like, nothing. And then I would accidentally do something. I'd get this huge response and I'd be like, what? It's a picture of my fireplace. Like, yesterday I gave you the philosophy that would change your whole life and you like my fireplace? Really? Right? So I was like, what will happen if I do that? What will happen if I do that? And it's so funny because recently I've had like 5 people go, who's your social media person? Well, I'm that person, like, accidentally. Right? But it's like, I was like, there's places that I've learned recently that I wasn't willing to test. Right. And so I'm starting to lean into those, and technology is one of those places for me that I was like, I don't get it. Instead of going, well, what would happen if I did this? What would happen if I tried this? And I'm learning, and it's awesome. And I'm never going to be like a technical advisor, but it's like, for me to say that I don't know this and I can't trust myself to learn that is actually, it's not creating greater, right? It's limiting me.
I love that you bring this up. I was just listening to an audiobook and it was talking about receiving people's criticisms and how to give criticism in a way that it's received well. And they did this study where they looked at all of this different work that had been done on criticism, whether it was to be positive or negative, and everything worked some of the time, and they had in common. And what they discovered was really, it was about if the person was in a place of experimentation, it didn't matter if it came positive or negative, it would be successful if the person that's being criticized felt that they were in a place of experimentation.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And that's what I do. I create experiments for myself all the time. Like, anything you make significant will have you by the balls. Like, it will, like, this is really important and I have to get this right. You're done, and the more that you can see everything as an experiment, because it is, life is an experiment, right? And I feel like we conduct experiments all the time. I'm conducting experiments in consciousness. Or I'm conducting an experiment in marketing or whatever it is. It's like, how does this work? That willingness to learn, right? I was watching a thing from Marie Forleo the other day, and she said the best thing she ever got from her mom was everything was learnable. Everything was learnable. Right? So there's nothing that you can't look at and go, oh, I'm not going to get that, or I'm not going to get through that, or I'm never going to figure that out. It's like, okay, if it's important to you, what's it going to take to learn about that? And actually just be willing to experiment with that. And you're right, that allows you to have more awareness because you're not so stuck in your rigid, this has to work place. Then you can receive the feedback. If you can't receive feedback from people, the universe is going to give you feedback. And I promise you, you would rather have it from a friend that's telling you, like, hey, this isn't working, than the universal 2x4. I've had enough of those to know I would much rather have somebody on my team tell me where I'm not being aware, where I have a blind spot, and be able to, well, let me get curious about that. Because I know that if somebody outside of me can see it, then it's there somewhere. And if I don't get curious about it, and the universe will have to teach me at some point.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing. And I wish we could continue, but we've gone over our time already. So,
of course, we have. I could talk about this one.
Have to finish up. Is there anything you want to conclude with?
I would suggest the book Benevolent Leadership by Chutisa and Steve Bowman. And you can get it on Kindle. You can get it from Amazon. Benevolent Leadership, Chutisa and Steve Bowman. And it's a powerful book all about developing awareness as a leader. And I think it's worth a read if this way of leading speaks to you.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And we will see you again next time.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn.
Bye.